Okay, so in this part of the tutorial we will create the little preview slot so that we can see what we are crafting. And this means that whenever we put in a new pattern here, this little slot here will be updated whenever we put a pattern, and it will be updated according to the pattern you have in here. So if you put up a pattern that will create an item, well then it will be shown here so that you can preview it before you actually use your material by clicking the craft button, because this will make it a little easier for you to determine if you want to craft that item or not. So if we close this one and jump into our script, then we can actually take the craft item function and copy paste it, because we need a lot of the functionality from it, and we only need to change a little around, because the only difference between the function we're going to make now and the craft item function is the fact that we're not going to add anything to our inventory, but we're going to add something to our preview slot. So let's copy paste the whole function here and just paste it underneath, and we can rename it to what should we call it? Something with preview, update preview or something. Update preview, just like this. So the top part here is fine, and this part is also fine, where we are creating the item we should do, because we need to check if the item or the pattern we just made will create an item. And if it does so, well then we need to create the item and everything. And down here we need to change something around. We need to remove the if statement here and the for each loop here, so we can delete this. And then we need to check our preview slot up, so we need to say preview slot, get component slot, and then we need to say add item, and we need to add the crafted item here. So now we're adding the crafted item to our preview slot, and then we're destroying the temporary object right away after that. And we can move this debug log, and we can move the debug log up here as well. So this function here will basically do the exact same thing as the create item, except instead of adding something to the inventory, it will add it to the preview slot we have here and destroy the item. And the preview slot is something that we have up here, we created in the beginning, and we set it up and everything, so we're just going to add it to that. So when do we need to call the update preview? Well, we need to call it inside create craft item here, because when we craft an item, well then some of our items might disappear from the crafting bench, and then we won't be able to create the item anymore. So we should update it to check if so every time we craft something, we should update it to check if we can still craft a new item, so that we will have a preview up. So down here we need to say update preview. Let's try to save this and jump into Unity. So let's just see if it works right now. Pick up some items, and if we put, let's say we put 3 here and 2 there and 10 here. So if I click the craft button, then you'll see that it comes up after this little sword here. It comes up after I click the craft button, because I don't add it until I click the craft button. So we also need to add some functionality that calls the preview function every time I add something to a slot in here. So every time I move something around, if I take these, if I add something here, let's say put something over here, or add some stone there or something, well then we need to make sure that this preview here updates, because right now there's still a sword, even though we can't craft a sword from this combination here. So we also need to call it somewhere else. And the place that we actually need to call it is in the move item function. And we need to be able to override the move item function in here, the same way as we wrote the create layout. So down here, public override void. And we can't override move item right now because it's not virtual. So if we jump to our inventory script and find the move item here, you'll see that it's just public void, and we need to write public virtual void. So now it's virtual, and then we save, and then we can jump back into our crafting bench, and then we can see if we can overwrite it now, and we can overwrite move item. There we go. So now we are overwriting it, and we need to call base move item, and we also need to call update preview. There we go. And save. But I'm pretty sure we have a problem here, because the move item function here is not being called at all. Because if we check here inside our game, see, run our game, and we take a look at the slots here, you'll see that all the slots here, the onClick function for each slot, is actually related to the inventory here, the inventory prefab. So it's not related to the crafting bench prefab. It should be related to this one instead. And we should find the correct function, crafting bench, and then it should be the move item here, function here. But that's not how it works right now. We need to do something from our script so that it's the crafting bench that it's assigned to this one. So we need to change the prefab, and we need to do something from within our script. So if we click on the slot prefab here, we see that we already have this onClick function here, and it's not needed anymore because we need to assign it from within the script instead. So to fix that, just click on the onClick here. If we can select it somewhere, there we go. Select the onClick and click the minus here, so that it's not assigned anymore. So this might have some effect on the char panel holder here. Let's see if we go to char panel head and stuff. Yeah, as you can see, the onClick here is not set anymore. So we need to set it on everything in the char panel, because they were linked to the slot prefab. And because they were linked to the slot prefab, well, then we just removed everything in here. So we need to set it up again. So go to your char panel and select shoulders, belt, chest, and so on, all the items that is not a filler. And then click on the plus, and then select the char panel, drag it onto here, go to the function, and click the clarity panel, and then select the move item function. There you go. And now you just need to assign the game object here for each and every one. Select the head, drag the head here, and the neck, and drag the neck there, and so on. Oh, the shoulders, of course. And you can, of course, just fast forward a few seconds if you're not interested in looking at me doing this. And when you're done with this, then we can start going to our inventory script and make sure that everything is set up properly. There we go. So now everything should be set up and still be working. If we open up our game and we pick up an item here and equip it, we still be able to pick it up here and move it around, as you can see. So right now we can't click over here because we haven't assigned these. Up here we can't move it around by clicking because we need to assign from the script, but we can still work the inventory, the character panel over here. Anyway, let's make sure that everything works again by going to our script, and then we need to move to our inventory script. And in here, inside the create layout function, we go to that one, go to definition. There we need to set up some functionality, because we need to assign the onClick event for every single slot. It's not something we'll be able to see in the inspector, but we will be able to assign it from here. So when we have added the slot to the all slots list here, then we can say new slot, get component, button. Just zoom in so we can see something. Button dot onClick dot add listener, and then we need to add our listener here inside this. And right now it's not, we can't just write move item just like this and then add the new slot like this. And the reason we can't do that is because that there's a parameter here, so we need to add a delegate to be able to do this. And a delegate is basically a way of referencing a method with a parameter. That's a short explanation of it, not a deep explanation or anything. But you don't need to know what it is. You can just write delegate and then make the scope after this. And then you can print this move item slot in here. And I actually think you need the semicolon as well. There we go. So now we have assigned the move item function click to the new slots button on click function. So, and we are adding the new slot itself to the move item because we need to know where we're moving, what item we're moving. So let's save, and then you can jump back into Unity. So first of all, we need to click on the crafting bench here, and we need to assign these events here because they're not assigned anymore, or they haven't been assigned to our crafting bench. So if you haven't assigned them, then just drag the crafting bench down here on each and every one of them. And when you've done that, then you need to select the functions, select function, go to crafting bench and select the correct function. For example, this is on drag, this is pointer enter, so click here and select the event trigger, no, sorry, not crafting bench here, and pointer enter, and select the pointer exit for the last one. There we go. And now we have assigned these so we can use them later. So right now, because we just added that code in there, we should be able to move our items around in our inventory. And as you can see, everything here works fine. But we're still not able to move our stuff around in here. And the reason that we're not able to move this around is actually because our crafting bench is closed at the moment. Because we never opened it. It is open is false. So we're not able to click on stuff to move it around. And the reason that we're not able to do that is because our crafting bench actually starts with alpha 1. We should set it as alpha 0, and we should find some way of so that we can actually open it. So we basically need to do the same thing as we're doing whenever we enter the chest here and press the E button to open it up. So to fix that, we should simply just add a new chest, basically. So we can duplicate the chest and go to our scene here, and we can move the chest maybe over here, and then we can add a new material. Under materials, right click, or actually we can take the mana and change the color, mana, and I can just use the mana for it. Just drag the mana onto the crafting bench here, so we have a blue one, and then we need to click on the chest, the new one we just created, press F2 and rename to crafting something, and the tag should be, yeah, chest is fine actually. We're gonna change that tag later so it makes more sense, but right now we can just use the same script and the same functionality. Because here is the chest inventory, we can simply take our crafting bench and drag it all the way over here to the crafting bench here, to that slot. So select the crafting you just made, take the crafting bench script inside the canvas, and drag it all the way over to the chest inventory slot here. So when you have done that, you should be able to open the crafting bench on E by going all the way to the bench here, press the E button, and as you can see now it actually opens. So let's try to pick up some items and go in here, open our bag, and move something over here. And if I click on it now, I'm able to move it around. And this is simply because when we press the E button, is open is true, and is open is basically making sure that we can move stuff around here. So now I'm actually able to move my items around just like this. And as you can see, I'm able to craft an awesome sword now. Don't mind that the press E button here is on top of it. We can always fix that later. But now you can see I just put up my stuff. I'm able to craft a sword. If I move the wood out of the way, we should also be able to update this. But right now you can see that the sword just gets updated again, and I can craft more swords. At least it looks like it. It looks like I can do 2 or 3 swords now, as you can see, or 4. So we need to fix something so it doesn't stack. But else we can actually move our stuff around. We can see that everything here actually kind of works. So let's fix this little bug where the sort actually stacks instead of updating it correctly here. So let's try to jump into our script, and in here in the move item function, nope, in the preview, let's see if we can find it, the update preview, we basically just need to say preview slot dot what's it called, get component slot dot clear slot. So we clear it every time we move something around in there. So now we make sure that every time we move something we clear it, so we don't have more sorts stacking on each other there. So let's just try to save this and go back in here, and let's try to run our game again, and we can try to make a sword again. So now we made the wood in the bottom and 2 iron, so we have a sword. If I move the wood over here, it updates and I can't make the sword anymore, and nothing happens when I click craft. But if I move the wood over here, I can click craft to create one sword, and click craft again to create one more sword, and now I'm not able to craft anything anymore. I just want to check if something works. Let's see if we put the iron here, I can craft. If I do like this, I'm still able to call craft awesome sword. It thinks because I move it from the crafting bench into the inventory. So we also need to fix that little thing. So basically I think we can fix that by going to our inventory instead. Go and inside the move item here, move item function in the inventory in the bottom here, all the way down here. We should be able to fix this by calling update preview, or basically we need to say if our what is it called, crafting bench dot instance that is open. So if the crafting bench is open, then we can say crafting bench dot instance dot update preview. There we go. So we only need to update the preview when it's open, because it's a waste of resources to try to update it all the time when you are doing other stuff. Let's say you're running around in your game world and you're moving stuff around in your inventory, then there's no point in updating the preview. So let's save, and let's try one more time here. We can run the game. There we go. And let's try to do this. So now I can make a sword. If I take this and move it out here, yeah, then you'll see now I can't make the sword anymore. So now the preview is actually properly updated. So before we can actually wrap this part up, we'll have to deal with a couple of bugs. If we run our game, you'll notice that if I pick up some items and mouse over here and close the inventory, and if I hold shift down and press the mouse button, first of all the split item UI here shows up, and we also get a an exception here. So let's fix the exception first. So the exception is basically very easy to fix. If we open up our script, jump into the inventory, and in here in the move item we simply need to check if the inventory is open before we start trying to move something from it. So if we make an if statement that said is open inside the move item function of the inventory, just gonna use the normal variable here, and then we move everything inside the move item function inside this if statement here, so that this if statement is open encapsulates everything in move item, so we can't move an item at all if the inventory is closed. So if we save this and run the game again, and we pick something up, close the items or the inventory, and shift click, then we don't give the exception anymore, at least, but we still get that split item up here. But to fix that, we would need to go to the slot script. So if we close this one down and we go to our slot script here, and inside the slot script there is a function called on pointer click, and in here under the next else if statement, where we check if lift button is clicked and we hold shift down and it's empty, Well, here we need to add another statement that says and transform dot parent dot get component slot that is not slot, inventory of course, dot is open. So what we're doing here is that we are inside the slot script, and on the slot there is a parent, and that parent is the inventory, and if that inventory is open, well, then we're going to create the hover icon. So if it is not open, then the hover icon shouldn't be shown anymore. So let's try to save this and jump back into Unity. Then we can try to run our game again. And let's pick up some items. There we go. Close it down. Hold shift down and click. And now we can't open anything or get any bugs here anymore. But we still have another problem on our hands because we haven't updated our load and save function. So if we pick these up, save, and then try to load, then we get a null reference exception. And the reason we get a null reference exception because we haven't taken the material into account in our load function. So we need to jump into our inventory and find the load function. Here we go. And in here, as you can see inside the load function, we are already taking the weapons, equipment and consumables into account when we're trying to find an item we should load. So in here we need to say if temporary equals null. Well, then we can copy paste this one, and we can say that we want to look for this in materials instead of weapons. So if we save this, then we should be able to find our materials now without any problems. Run the game. And let's pick up the materials. We will save our inventory, stop this, run it again and try to load it up. And as you can see now, our items here has been loaded fine without any problems. So I think that's it for this part of the tutorial. If you run into any bugs of any kind, don't hesitate to write them in the comments or write me a message by email, and then I'll make a video that fixes these bugs right away, because I haven't added this to a game and I haven't played around with it a lot. I've just played around with it now when I was creating all these things. So if you find any bugs at all, please remember to write it to me so that I can fix it, which will make it easier for you guys when you're making your games, because then you don't need to sit with all these bugs by yourself and try to fix it. So thank you very much for watching this part of the series, and as usual, if you're interested in the project, you can find it in the link in the description below.